We have another special guest today. He was a three-time ASUN champ in the shot put. He was an NCAA All-American, and he was the NAACA U23 Silver Medalist. And he's also the host of the Kyle Mitchell Show, which you can find at the Kyle Mitchell Show on Instagram and on YouTube. He's a great guest, great conversation, and that is Kyle Mitchell.
Hi, what's going on, man? How you doing today, bro?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Got an off day. Had a tough last week of workouts and everything, getting ready for outdoor season. So, yeah, I know you're at Liberty right now, like being the assistant coach and stuff for throws. I know y'all probably been busy doing the same thing. Did y'all have a meet this week?
So we did have a meet this week, and just to kind of clarify, I am working with the throws.
Okay.
I do work with the throwers, but right now, primarily, I work with the multis. So I work with the multis in different events, but I focus mainly on the throws.
Okay.
That just gives me the flexibility to do other things that I need to do, being that, I have a family right now and stuff that I just have to take care of.
Yeah, 100%. So that's exactly what I wanted to kind of get into was basically like what is the stuff that you do outside of the Liberty stuff to take care of yourself, because obviously, like you said, you have a family. You're a really good thrower, NCAA All-American, multiple-time ASUN champion, all this stuff. So, like, what do you do now, being that you've now, like, post-collegiate, obviously helping out there, but, like, what else do you do?
So, right now I work at a company called Sodexo, which is basically the dining company for most universities here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I do pretty much everything. Honestly speaking, I do data entry. I do inventory management. I'm interning in human resources. I do catering. I do whatever it is that I can do to kind of build a good portfolio in terms of a resume, because you know how it is when you're in NCAA. You don't really have time to go do internships or apprenticeships. So I'm kind of having to backtrack and do that right now to kind of fill my resume up.
Heck
So
yeah.
that's what I've been doing. I've been doing that. I've been doing contract work in terms of, building gyms, work with Sorinex to build different gyms in different states, stuff like that, and just kind of keep myself busy.
And what do you mean by the like building gyms, like designing the different stuff? Like what exactly do you do there?
So, I work with a company. I don't 100% remember their name, and I know that's weird, but I work with a company, and they basically get contracted out through Sorinex.
Okay.
But most of my POCs are usually from Sorinex. That's why I usually just say Sorinex, because it's easier for people to understand where I'm coming from and what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I work for a company that gets outsourced through Sorinex to go and like literally build the gyms from scratch. So, for example, I think Alabama has a Sorinex gym.
Yeah.
So whatever that space was before the Sorinex equipment was there, we had to go in and build from the ground up all the equipment, all the different things, running the wires, and having like a different team of people to just come in and just build the gym from the ground up.
Heck yeah. No, I exactly remember that. I remember being there, and they took all the stuff out and then had to put all that new stuff in. It's an incredible gym. So no, that's nice. So do you get to like travel around different places doing stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that's the hard part for me, is because I come from Jamaica, which is a Caribbean country.
Mm.
You can drive the whole country in less than 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
So going from that to driving on a highway for 5-6 hours straight, it's a lot for me. But I do enjoy going to different states, experiencing different cultures, because that's what it's like here in the U.S. is every state kind of feels like its own country in a sense.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say, like, I've been used to, I guess, living here my whole life, like driving 9 hours, different places. I took a trip one time. It was like we took an RV. I mean, it took us 3 days. We all went out to Sacramento, like California. So like I don't know, that stuff's just kind of been. I like a long road trip. It's fun to me.
Yeah, I like going on road trips, because I've been on road trips before. You know, with traveling with the bus when you're with your friends, but when you're
Yeah.
the one doing the driving, I didn't know you could get tired from driving. I didn't know that. Like I'd be driving and I'm like, I'm tired for real. And all I've been doing is sitting down. But yeah.
Heck yeah. No, that's for real. I've I remember one night after my Maryland visit, we got back like to Atlanta, and I mean it was probably like midnight. Then I had to drive from there back to Dothan, where I'm from, and that entire drive, like it was an absolute struggle. I was having to turn the music up, roll the windows down, trying to get it cold just to stay awake. It was terrible.
Yeah, I'll be shout like I remember one night I was driving from Georgia, 8 hours. And I was like 6 hours in when I because my thing is to make the time go by, I listen like a ton of podcasts.
Oh yeah,
And I try not to look at the time because when I look at the time, I just get discouraged.
yeah,
And I don't know how I ended up looking at the time. When I look at the time and I saw that I had 2 hours left, I was like, man, I wanted to sleep so bad. I had to legit wind down all four windows on the highway and
yeah.
just be shouting like on top of my lungs just to wake up, just to wake up. And is it and that made me learn that you should never go on a trip like that by yourself. I
Yeah.
always got somebody else with you because it could have gone wrong real quick, but I'm glad it didn't. But you learn from your experiences.
Heck yeah, no, for real. I know I had plenty of them trips like that. My dad was with me, thankfully. He was the whole time. He was damn near asleep. I've had taken other trips where my boys like, yeah, man, I got you. And I look over, he's sitting there snoring, just, and it's like, all right, man,
Yeah,
I guess this one's on me. But
yeah.
you was talking about being from Jamaica, obviously, and so like, there's obviously a big throwing community over there. Got a lot of really good throwers. But how did you first get into throwing in Jamaica?
Well, actually, to be honest, I got into throwing just out of pure curiosity. I was working at a back home we call it a gas station. You guys probably would just have a specific place you go to get like the cylinder gas, but I was working at a gas station, and a taxi driver actually came up to me and said, "You look pretty strong. You look like you should be throwing the shot put." And I didn't know what the shot put was at that time. I
Yeah,
was like, "What's the shot put?" And he's like, "Just go to school and ask the track and field people what it is." And I did that. And initially, I thought, well, maybe I can, get a nice physique, get some muscles, and not really. I didn't really care about the shot put part of it. But like many things, you come from a humble beginning. That's what the beginning was. That's my origin story. I just wanted to get buff. I just wanted to
yeah,
look good, and it went from there to I actually started liking this thing. I actually started. It was the first time in my life that I felt like, I was challenged to do something, and to an extent, the ball was in my court. Just like studying, but I
yeah,
didn't enjoy studying. Like the more you studied, the better the chances are you were to get a good grade.
yeah.
But I didn't enjoy that. And with this, the more you train, the more you took time out to work on your technique, the better you could become. And I was seeing that by just me staying late, getting there early, and just seeing the incremental improvements. So yeah, that's how I got started with it. To be honest,
Okay, and like how like what age were you whenever you like first started getting into it?
I started when I was 13 years old.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
so
That's probably I started like I think it was seventh grade for me, which I probably was like a little like 12 around that
yeah,
age, getting started with it.
it was eighth grade for me. Like
Okay,
late part of seventh grade going into eighth grade.
okay. And do y'all have throws like with the schools, or is it like a club type thing?
So it's with the school. I didn't have a
Okay.
club. So back home we have a thing called the Boys and Girls Championships.
Mm,
It's actually gonna it's gonna be next week, but that's don't quote me on this, but I think our Boys and Girls Championships is the biggest high school championships in the world in terms of like competition. Like the level that it's at
yeah,
is just insane, and people from all over the world come to the Boys and Girls Championship to recruit talent to just see, these young Jamaican athletes on
yeah.
display. And in my opinion, I've never felt or experienced anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, clubs, we have clubs, but not at the high school level. Like it's not normal to see somebody saying they're a part of like the MVP track club when they're in high school. Now there are
Mm.
cases where, a lot of guys will be training with the professionals, but for the most part, it's, you go to, like for me, I went to Calabar, so you go to Calabar, you train with the Calabar coaches, or you go to KC, which is Kingston College, and you train with the KC coaches. That's typically how it is.
I got you. I bet that's exactly how it was here because we just always, obviously, with the schools, and I never had a club like really ever. I went to a bunch of club different meets over the summer and stuff to get throws in and stuff, but never actually a thing like that. And I can tell you, I don't know exactly the numbers and stuff, but it's definitely a lot better than my damn
Yeah.
state high school meets because they were not the best ones. We had some good people on the track, but the throws would never be that good for sure. And I was looking on your like bio and everything on Liberty, and I saw that you were able to compete the youth championships in 2015 for Jamaica. So
Yeah.
like, how was that for you being able to like compete for your country like that at a youth thing like that?
It was a bittersweet moment for me because I had a lot of expectation of myself going into that championship,
Mm-hmm.
but it was the first time I was competing at that level. So, and there was a lot of pressure because when I got there, we had the meetings and they selected me as team captain. So it's
Nice.
like even more pressure to perform because I'm like, all right, I'm the captain. I have to lead by example.
Yeah.
And I go out there, boom, no mark. I fouled all three of my throws.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to blame that, but a lot of it was just kind of language barrier because, sometimes the rules to throw in. Like, for example, if your heel is touching the back of the ring, depending on where you at, they might call it a foul.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like one of those cases. And at that time, that was like the bread and butter for my throw, like pushing off the back. If I couldn't do that, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to throw far. So every time I kept getting called foul for that, and I was like trying to talk to the guy, but this was in Colombia, so he didn't speak English. We didn't have a translator out there at the time, so it was just so frustrating, man. And I
Yeah.
just ended up fouling out. That was my first taste of being disappointed, like for real.
Yeah. I was
You
about
don't
to
want
say,
to live.
especially something like that, like such a small rule like that, it's ridiculous. I've seen like obviously I think they changed that like
Yeah,
technically because once Krauser did it at the World
yeah,
Championship, they were like, all right, we got to change it.
yeah. We got to
We got to
change it.
change
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, but that was a pivotal moment for me, just from a leadership standpoint, because it made me realize that leadership is not about how you feel; it's about just your responsibility as a leader. So I still had to get up every day because I competed on the first day, and it was from, I think, Wednesday to Saturday.
it.
So as you know, that's the worst feeling, to compete on the first day and do that.
Yeah.
But I still had to show up for all my other teammates. I still
Mm-hmm.
had to lead. I still had to encourage and, do it in my own unique way, but I still had to do it. And I think that's where I learned, hey, it's not just about you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a team sport. And I know sometimes we kind of get individualistic because we're like, oh, it's our own individual performance. But that was when I realized, oh, it is a team sport, and you got to support your teammates, and you got to support the coaches too, because they need support. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I learned that.
No, for sure. And that it is a tough feeling, like coming back from a tough meet like that. Usually the shot, especially I don't know, I guess in these college meets, it's always the last day, so it's always getting on the bus and just being like, damn, that
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah,
I wish I had some meets earlier in the little like instead of being on like Saturday all the time. But obviously, like you said, it wasn't the best thing there, but you like take lessons and learn from it. And
yeah,
then I think in 2019 you were able to get a silver medal. I think it was the NAACA U23 games. Is that right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So that
how
that,
how
that
was
was, I guess, my
how was that
first
experience?
taste. That was my first taste of, if you want to say, like, success at the senior level.
Hmm.
It was a good experience, honestly. I loved Mexico. I loved the culture. The people were nice. The competition was good because at that time, that year was the first time I'd ever thrown 18 meters,
Hmm.
and it was in around like March, April was the first time I threw 18 meters, and it just made me realize that I felt like I underperformed throwing like 1880, I think. But when I reflected on it, I'm like, man, you started the year throwing 16,
Yeah.
and now you're at 1880, and you're upset about it. Like, look how far you've come. You get so caught up in the destination of it that you forgot the whole journey of
Yeah.
moving from 16 to 18. To if at the time when you were throwing 16, if you had thrown 17, you'd have been so happy, and now you're throwing 18 and you're upset. So it's just crazy to actually reflect and look back at things like that and just see how much you've grown.
No, for sure. It's always tough to like try to not get in that mindset. Even anytime you improve, it's like, well, I could have done this better though. And that would have
Yeah,
made it go even further and all that.
yeah.
100%. So obviously different. My recruiting process probably different than yours coming from Alabama. I just emailed my coach and stuff. So what was it like for you coming from Jamaica and then getting recruited and ended up at Liberty?
So, when I was in high school, I was pretty. I don't want to say good. I was pretty decent. I was throwing close to 18 with the 16. So at the time, like a good amount of colleges were reaching out to me. Yeah, Power Five colleges were reaching out to me.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of options, to be honest with you. And I chose to go to K-State
Okay.
because at the time in my mind, and for most athletes, coming out of Jamaica, or I think in high school, I'm just so fixated on Power Five, Big 12. Is this a big school? Are they going to give? I don't know what I was getting myself into, and I didn't have the right resources around me to kind of tell me, hey, it's not about the name of the school. Sometimes it's not even about the coach, because I've seen a lot of times where people go to schools for coaches and it's a business. He gets an offer somewhere else for more money, he's going to leave. And if you're not
Yeah.
on his priority list, he can't leave with you. So what are you going to do at that point? So you got to look at it from the perspective of, yes, I want to go where a good coach is, but I want to go where I know it's a good system. So that's where I kind of understand when, people choose to go Power Five. But in my case, I just chose because I just love the hype. I was like, yeah, it's a Power Five school. It's going to look successful. It's going to look good. And it wasn't. No shade to the coach. I really appreciate Coach Greg Watson at the time. Great coach. Outside of throwing, he's a great person too. But it was just a whole different kind of system that I couldn't adjust to well. And the transition was terrible for me. I actually regressed that year. Like, I came in throwing 17.8 and I finished the year at 17.8. So it was like there was no real progress.
100%. So, like, obviously, I mean, a bunch of people, and especially now, the transfer portal and stuff, I didn't know that you actually went there first. So what was it like? When did you make the decision to transfer and actually end up at Liberty?
Okay, so Coach Watson, after my first year, Coach Watson and I sat down and he had made a plan because he believed in me 100%. He still believed in me, and he was encouraging me to, just keep training, because there were a lot of days where I would have training sessions where I'm throwing 18 meters and we're like, all right. And then I go to the meet and it's just not clicking. And I think that's where the disconnect was. And again, I'm not throwing any shade on him. It's just the lack of collaboration. We weren't communicating, in my opinion, effectively, that the both of us could have seen some kind of success. Because from a technical standpoint, if he was telling me to do a specific technique that I didn't feel comfortable with from a rhythm standpoint, I didn't know how to communicate to him that, hey, this isn't working out, and I won't be able to replicate this when adrenaline is going. Like, I might be able to do it now in the training session, but we're talking about a meet that you need me to throw far 2 weeks from now. Like, it's going to be hard for me to bring this that I'm just learning to that meet. And if that's what you want, communicate to me and say, hey, we're thinking for the future. We're not thinking for the next 2 weeks, but the energy I'm getting from you is you want me to throw far the next 2 weeks. How am I going to throw it far the next 2 weeks if I'm just learning this and it's not clicking? And I know how I am when I get to the meet. I'm going to have all this adrenaline. I'm going to be missing all the cues that you're telling me. So, you know what I'm saying? It's just things like that.
No, 100%.
But
I know exactly what you mean. Like, there'll be so many times where I'm throwing and I'll get something with my right foot or a cue that he tells me, and it's like I did it, but I don't know how I did it really like what I really need to do to replicate that again. And then he'll just that was it. That was your throw. And I understand what he's saying, but it's just tough to be like, I don't know that feeling. I don't know what that feeling is. I know exactly what you mean there.
No, 100% is. I always, if everybody's different, but I always said for me the light bulb moment for me was when I realized that it's not about the gym. It's not about even technique. It's really about the feeling. Like I don't want to sound too spiritual, but you kind of have to be one with the shot put kind of thing. Like you have to know what you're doing wrong while you're doing it, not after. Like you do it and you know, oh, I dropped my elbow on that one, or my knee was too high. Like that's the level that I think you need to get to from a rhythm standpoint to be able to really see some growth. Because in my junior year, I went from on and off throwing 18 to throwing 19 every meet. And being so close to throwing 20 that it was kind of annoying to me. Like I was like, I'm not even feeling the shot coming out of my hand, and it's going 19.5. So I'm like, yo, there's so much room for growth, and all this came from rhythm, you know? Yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, there's so many times you're just throwing, and if you don't have that rhythm, or even if you lose it, like in the middle of a session or something, you can just feel like, oh, I don't even know what's going on, and trying to get back to a cue or get back to something that you've been doing right is always like, I don't know, something that helps me. But yeah, if you don't have the rhythm, it's incredibly tough and incredibly frustrating because you just like, what's going on?
But to answer your question about how did I end up at Liberty?
Yeah.
After that happened, I talked to the coach. And this is a trust issue thing too, because we had talked and we planned and we are gonna do everything, and then he took a job somewhere else, and then another coach came in, and long story short, that situation ended up being worse than the previous one, and I just had to get into the portal. And I think if there's anything, I'm 25 years old right now, and I think if there's anything in my life that I can say really tried me as a person was that period, because again, didn't have any resources, didn't know the system, didn't know what to expect, didn't know my rights. So when I actually went into the portal upon his advice, because he told me, yeah, maybe you just go in the portal and stuff like that. I was like, all right. When I went into the portal, say I went into the portal at 11 a.m. 2 p.m. I got like 12 emails back to back. You no longer have access to the training table. You no longer have access to this. And I'm like, what's going on? I got another email. You will no longer be receiving stipend. So it's like that moment, honestly, it kind of crushed me. It crushed my spirit. It made me feel like, man, I should just give this up, because how am I going to even afford to like do the things that I need to do?
Yeah.
How am I going to pay my bills? You know what I'm saying? I'm coming from Jamaica. It's not like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that moment really taught me resilience and to persevere. And I ended up had to go get 2 jobs while trying to train, while trying to stay in school.
Yeah.
And I had to do all of that. And the silver lining in all of that was when I reached out to Liberty, because I knew they had reached out to me. But again, I'm in high school. I'm like, Liberty, I don't want to go to Liberty. What's Liberty?
Yeah.
I want to go to a big school with a good football team so I can, enjoy the college life. So I ended up having to go reach out to Liberty. I was like, hey, I'd love a full scholarship, X, Y, and Z. And the coach at the time told me, hey, I mean, you only threw 1780. We can't give you anything with that, to be honest. But I'm gonna talk to my head coach regardless. Just to give you a fair shot. And he went and talked to the head coach, and the head coach said he prayed about it because he felt like he didn't know why, but God was telling him to pray about it. And the guy gave me a full scholarship. That if we're being honest, if it was me just being a businessman, I would have never given me a full scholarship throwing 17.
Yeah.
But it's just he just took a chance at me, and when I came here, I told myself that I'm going to make the best of the opportunity. And to be honest, man, coming to Liberty, in my opinion, was the best decision because it was the best environment. It was the best system. I had a coach that, collaborated with me. He didn't tell me, hey, do this. And if I didn't know why I was doing it and I asked him a question, he got upset. He was always like, all right, we're going to do this because what's your opinion on it? And I would say,
Yeah.
this is my opinion. And he would say, all right, let's go forward with what you're thinking. Let's try what you're thinking, and that gave me the confidence to work harder, to try harder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. No, and I can say I've heard a lot of like not too great stories about people getting the transfer portal and doing different things, and people why they've gotten the transfer portal. But I mean, that's a great story, especially because at that level, it's kind of close. Like you can improve and be really good, or kind of stay there and not do great. So that's like I guess the good side of some of the things in track and field, instead of people who are all Americans getting their scholarships cut when new coaches come in and stuff like that. So that's not a rare story either. But I mean, obviously, Liberty, you did incredibly well there, won multiple ASUN championships and all this, and I think had the school record at one point, and then I think now Warren has it. Is that correct?
Yeah, for indoor.
For indoor, okay. But yeah, and it's just like you had a great time. You're still helping out there, so obviously your experience there was really good. And yeah, I mean, I know Chelsea, who was there, and she always talks well about it and everything. And we loved having her when she came down here. So I'm sure, I think were you there whenever Chelsea was there?
Yeah, I know Chelsea. We all came at the same time, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, I love Chelsea for sure. Now, one question I'm just interested in asking you, because obviously you're from Jamaica and now you're living. Where exactly is Liberty? I don't exactly.
Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia.
In Virginia. So, like, what do you feel like? What are the differences from like Jamaica and here? Like pros and cons. What you like there? What do you not like here? What's good here? What's different? Everything like that.
That's a great question. I think, to be honest, where I live in Virginia, it's pretty similar to where I grew up in Jamaica. Just kind of it being a slower paced way of living. I lived in New York for some time too, so that's why I can kind of have something to compare it against. Like New York is kind of fast paced. I got to go to work. I got to do this. Here, it's easier to, in my opinion, enjoy your day, go through not just the motions, but go through the different processes that you need to go through. And that reminds me of Jamaica, The food, no, Jamaica definitely has, better quality food, in my opinion, just because doesn't have all the preservatives and the different things. It's just organic food that I didn't know was a big deal till I got here. So it's like, I didn't know organic was expensive until I got here and knew there was a price to it. Like back home, organic is just seen as normal. Like we would have tomatoes growing in our backyard, mangoes growing in our backyard. So when you get here and you really, I got to pay $4 for a mango. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's different. But
someone's trying to make some money off of it somewhere.
Exactly. But overall, I would say being here in Lynchburg, to me, kind of feels like a home away from home, just because of the things that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
And the people too, it's like it's diverse because you got a lot of young people, you got a lot of middle-aged to old people. So you have people that you can hang out with, and then people that you can get wisdom from. I like that too. In terms of where I would, if I'm being honest, I actually prefer living here more than living in Jamaica, just from a living standpoint, because there's more that you can do in terms of with your money. There's more resources around you. I can go on Amazon and buy something that I need versus in Jamaica, we don't really have all the resources to get all the things. So it's kind of like a supply and demand. So if I wanted to buy, say, a TV, right, it would cost me probably twice as much as if I were wanting to buy a TV here, just because it's so hard to get that kind of TV in Jamaica.
Yeah. I got you. No, and obviously, I mean, with track and field, it's one of the most diverse sports out there. So I always love asking like people on my team and stuff that are from different countries, just because obviously I don't have that experience in any way. But that's definitely something interesting. Is like I guess it's probably just taxes on the exports and everything to get stuff down there and everything. But that's one thing in the U.S., especially talking about food. I think it's ridiculous is the amount of preservatives and everything, and that's why I think we see a bunch of obesity and people being super out of shape and diabetes, all these stuff that's killing people every year. But someone's making money off it. They can make the food a little bit cheaper, so they end up doing it.
Yeah, that's one thing. The first time I came to the United States, and I know this might sound weird, but I'm just being honest. The first time I came to the United States was the first time I saw like somebody like really obese, like a really, I don't want, like overweight person.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen it in my life. Honestly, when I was like, I thought this was just in the movies for real. You know, and the funny thing is, and any Jamaican can tell you this. The funny thing is, I honestly believe we eat more than the typical American. Like when I was back home for breakfast, I would eat rice, chicken, and macaroni salad and stuff like that for
Yeah.
breakfast. And then for lunch, I'll be eating the same thing but more. And then dinner, I'm eating the same thing. And I'm doing that all year long.
Yeah.
And then here is like you're eating breakfast, but it's kind of, it goes back to the point that you mentioned. It's what's in the food.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, that's what's causing people to it's messing with their system, their hormones, it's all over the place. It's sad, but it's just the reality that we live in.
No, 100%. And I mean, I think like especially stuff like that's all good quality food that's organic and stuff, and it's gonna like actually provide fuel to your body. But we'll have people drinking. I mean, you just get some latte with all this sugar and different shit in it, with a bagel in the morning with some sort of different thing, and even that's probably not even that bad compared to some like cereals and different things that you can get
Yeah,
that are just horrible for you.
yeah,
Uh,
100%.
yeah, no, that's something that I always like organic type food, and I'm obviously broke, so I don't have the money to get all the nicest shit there is. So I definitely be getting some of that stuff like all the time for sure. But looking into the future, like that's definitely something. I know Chandler, one of the girls on our team, her dad has like a cattle ranch. I've been trying to get her to tell me how much it is for half of a cow for like a year now, ever since she's gotten here, but she's yet to tell me. So, but when I get a deep freeze, I'm gonna try to get that information from her because I want to try to get some actual good meat instead of some shit from the store that's all got a bunch of preservatives and different shit. Especially if you look at anything that's in a box in those like grocery stores. Anytime I read the nutrition label, it's always the sodium's out the ass. I'm just like, what is going on? This is not good.
It's like
This
a
can't be a
chemistry
good thing.
test.
Yeah, you read the instruction thing at the bottom. Like, I can't even pronounce these words. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
No, it blows my mind. Then I was actually looking on your Instagram earlier today, and I saw it was on your story. You talking about corporations. The video, dude talking about not the people they don't promote the ones that actually do the job the correct way. They just promote the people that they actually like, and you'll hang out with them after and everything. And I've seen it. I mean, I know exactly what you mean. And like it happens all the time, but that makes me just not want to do that shit. In my opinion, like I want to
Yeah.
start my own business and different things. Like, how does that make you
Yeah.
feel and stuff like that? Like, is that something that you want to get into?
I mean, honestly speaking, that's something that I'm passionate about. And I'm going to be 100% transparent because I feel like transparency is something that I appreciate when I see others do it. So I'm going to do it. For me, honestly, when I got out of college or when I just got done, I had several job offers that were paying me a good amount of money. But it was during the period of time where I don't want to say getting awakened or anything like that, but it was a period of time where I was actually taking the time out to do my own research,
Yeah,
to do my own studies. And then these same persons were like, hey, we'd like to offer you this job, but our team went and looked at your social media and we saw that, you're posting about X, Y, and Z. While you should have the freedom to speak however you want to speak, it doesn't align with our company policy. And in order for us to offer you this job in writing,
yeah,
we ask that you take it down. And I remember in the moment, because I was just still thinking about the money. I remember in the moment I was like, all right, I'll think about it and get back with you guys later. And I just wanted to talk to my wife about it. I thought she was gonna say,
mm,
yeah, just do it. When I spoke to her, she was like, you know, what do you believe in? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you stand for? And I'm like, yo, that's so true. It's like I would be selling out by, doing what they told me to do versus freely expressing myself and my
yeah,
opinions and what I believe in. Because I believe in I'm big on people. I love
mm,
people. I might not be an extrovert, but I want everybody to win. And to me, it's kind of hard to see a company tearing you down, but at the same time, wanting so much from you. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to
yeah,
give them all just to get so little. And you can't do anything financially for the people around you. You can barely do anything for yourself, but they're wanting so much from you. So in my mind, my approach was like, hey, that's how I got back into coaching. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna focus what I'm passionate about right now. I know I love throwing. I know I love athletics. I'm gonna focus on that, and I'm gonna leverage the skills that I learned doing my degree. You know, I did business administration. I got my MBA and
Yeah.
all of that. I'm gonna use that to kind of make some money because I have a family. I still got to provide, and
Yeah.
that's my purpose as a husband and father. But it's during that whole process, that transition, that process from turning down those jobs, which would have put me in a way better position financially, but mentally and spiritually, I would have been so drained. And I ask myself all the time, like every morning that I get up, bro, and I know this might sound weird, but I'm just being honest. Every morning I get up, I tell myself, like, how much is that worth? You
Yeah.
know, I'm big on really living in the moment. I take a breath and I'm like, if I were to ask somebody, how much was that value that you can't put a price on that, you know? You can't put a price on the days that you're living. But when you really think about it, you're spending 8 hours of your life, which is 1/3 of your life, if you really think about it, for a corporation that doesn't really care about you, doesn't care if your family's okay, if your children are sick, if your mom's in the hospital. They don't care about that. So how am I gonna like give my all to that? And why would I want to work something that I can't give my all? So I think that's the gray area right now for most athletes, just most people in general. You leave college and you realize I got a business degree, but I'm not really that passionate about business. My mom was, and
Yeah.
she kind of forced me to do it. I'm not passionate about it, but I still got to pay the bills. Instead of looking at it like that, I think we should take some time out to really figure things out, to go through the rough patches because it's not easy, especially there's a point in time for me where like a year in I was like, man, maybe I should have taken the job,
Yeah.
and then it's in those moments that you reflect and it's like, nah, because then I would get a message from a friend who was in a similar job and they're like, man, I love what you're posting. I wish I could post something like that, but I can't. And
Yeah.
then you realize like, man, they want to be you so much, not in a that way, but you know what I mean. They want to do the things that you can do, but they can't. You can't put a price on that. So that's just a small portion of my take on what people might call conspiracies or stuff like that. It's just knowledge to me, or my opinion on knowledge is I don't believe knowledge necessarily is power. I think knowledge is empowering.
That's for sure.
Knowledge should be something that you use as a tool to be better, because I can have all the information on how to throw far. If I'm not applying it, then I won't ever throw far, you
Yeah.
know? So
100%.
I just think that's what most people should do is take the time out, do your research. If you don't want to be overweight, if you don't want to be bedridden in the future, take some time out and do some research on what that would look like. What are the things that you can take. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to be a vegan. Like for me right now, I'm plant-based, but I'm testing it out.
Hmm.
I'm not going to be the type of person that's going to say, hey, I won't go plant-based, and I've never tried it. you
Yeah.
know so that's just my opinion still.
No, I could not agree with you more. Like almost everything you said. One thing, especially as you said about research, like I found is especially going through like college right now with different like AI type things, different just stuff you can look up online. Like if you're just interested in the topic and actually take the time out of your day to go look it up and take a few hours to actually do your research and do different things, like you can find an incredible amount of information just from doing that. When like I mean I'm thankfully I got a scholarship, so I don't got to pay tuition like academically, so I was able to not have to pay for the classes. But those classes are really damn expensive, and you go in there and you're getting hearing a slideshow that I could look up doing. I could ask the same type of question in the AI if I had the chapter title and a few little key points, and I would get
Yeah,
basically the exact same information. And
yeah,
if you do your research, you can find those little key points and actually find the stuff you need to look up to look what you're like trying to do.
yeah,
And I think that's something that I feel I've explained this. I was trying to explain this to one of our coaches the other day, Coach Pate. And I think a big disconnect that we were having is he was talking about when he was growing up and all the resource and the opportunity that the college gave, like University of Alabama gave to him. And I was like, I completely agree, like that's true. But one thing is different is I can go on my phone right now and go to ChatGPT or go to Safari and look up what I want to look up and find out that information for myself from an actual like good credible source. And I was like, I don't think that's something that was an option because there's so many different things. And this is one thing I guess I'm kind of passionate about. But in high school, they don't really give you a wide array of like these are the options of things you can do to be successful. Even though there's billionaires all over the time that drop out of high school and don't graduate, but yet they're billionaires. You're like, how did that happen? Like, but you don't ever hear that story. You just hear well, the most percentage, if you want to make the most money, if you're a college grad, you're going to get that. And I'm not against college, obviously. I'm going to graduate next year. Like, it's obviously a good thing. But when you're in high school, I think it's good to be told, like, well, there's other things you can do. There's trades that you can get into. There's things you can do. And then you can do college later. There's ways to get college paid for through National Guard. There's ways to do all types of different things that I just think high school it's kind of just a filter system of, all right, go be a college grad and do this because all the jobs you're going to want to get, they're all going to be required because they're going to say, you got to have a bachelor's degree. You're only going to make $30,000 a year. The tuition was more than that, but you got to have a bachelor's degree to get the job. And it's kind of just like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
It feels like a scam. It feels like a scam, to be honest. Yeah, it does.
I agree. Because I think, and it makes sense in my opinion, because if you're at the top, you're not going to go, well, we don't just give away all the secrets here. Like, why would we do that?
Exactly.
That's not a smart thing to do. That's not a good idea. But I think in high school, especially now with how technology is advancing, like people are going to have to be either more skilled in the technology or be able to use the technology to help them in whatever they want to do. Because I think a lot of jobs and a lot of things are going to be taken over by AI and different like programs that are just really good at what they do. I can tell you for a great example is like editing videos and different things, like stuff I do for the podcast. Some of the clips and everything I'll edit will be AI clips. And instead of me sitting there and having to do 6 hours of going through, finding what I want it to be, all these things, getting the separate videos, doing all that, I can put the video into the AI system. And then a little bit later, I'll get 10 to 15 videos that are cut up. And then I can edit them and make them like what I want them to be. Yeah. And it's like, it saves me so much time. And it's just stuff like that I think. I was even talking to a guy the other day with something about, I think he said cardiologist. I don't exactly remember that. So it could have been some different radiologist or something. But it was a specific doctor that he was talking. He was like, AI is like, they're going to put them out of a job. Like the AI is better at their job than what they do. And he's like, other doctors, like obviously they're not, but like that specific one is like that they're just better at it. And like he's a doctor, the other guy, and there was a doctor, and he was like, yeah, like it's really good. So I think stuff like that, and it's just giving people that knowledge. I think because we're going to have to adapt unless people are going to be out of jobs and having to take unemployment and stuff like that. And that stuff I'm heavily against because I think people should have the not responsibility, but just like integrity and want to go out and do the shit for themselves. Because you're gonna have more purpose and more meaning in your life in that than if you're just taking a check from somebody. Even though there's certain circumstances where obviously like that's incredibly helpful and there's a reason it's there. For sure.
I agree 100%, man. 100%. I just had a conversation today is Sunday. On Friday with one of my friends who's a software engineer, and he told me that company sent out a massive email telling them that within the next 6 weeks, 15% of the company is going to be laid off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they said 6 weeks just because they're still waiting to see if this new technology is going to work, because they have a new technology that can actually code, an AI that can actually code. So it's like, that's the big picture, or that's the thing that I think a lot of people, they're so caught up in where they're at that they're not looking at the future, because the future is actually upon us in terms of AI. It's not movies anymore. This isn't fiction. This is real life, where in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see jobs just non-existent anymore. And I was telling my wife the other day, is like, we got to start preparing and planning and thinking ahead of the curve so we don't get caught in a bad situation in the future. And as you mentioned with high school, they need to do a better job of that. Honestly, they need to do a better job of communicating that, hey, yeah, back in the 70s, you could go be a doctor and a lawyer and it would make a lot of money. But in this day and age, here are some jobs that are actually making money. And you have different options. Like I know for a fact, as much as AI is coming in, cybersecurity, tech, IT, those jobs were never the jobs where people talked about when I was growing up. Nobody talked about it. Everybody wanted to be a lawyer and a doctor. That's it. Nobody wanted to go into tech. But the people that did want to go into tech, they're the ones that are making all the money now. And I have friends who dropped out of high school that have their own businesses right now and have employed the same persons who in school took it so serious, went to college, do all of that, and ended up having to work for the same person who dropped out of high school. So when you see stuff like that, I know it's easy to just try to avoid it and just because it makes you feel bad. But sometimes you just gotta I admit to myself, I went through college and I do all of that. And I'm not gonna say I regret it because I have it. But when I really think about it, I'm like, just imagine somebody just paid for this. Like somebody just paid for this, and me at the end of it, I can 100% say that I didn't really learn anything that's applicable in the real world. Like I might have learned how to do a balance sheet and all of that, but guess what? I can type in ChatGPT, create a balance sheet. You know what I'm saying? So did I go to school for all of that just so I can type into the computer, create this? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's just the bigger picture, you know?
Exactly. And that right there, I think, is the biggest point because if you're talking to someone who went to college 20 years ago, that's not an option. Like you had to learn all of that. But you can type in the chat. I was doing coding on ChatGPT for different little websites I've made. So it's like there's different stuff on there that I mean you can literally do all types of stuff. And I was exactly the other day I was hearing this one big like tech guy talking about how the AI is going to start doing code where you can just type in what you want and it's going to be able to code it for you.
Yeah, Devin.
Yeah, and it's like I can't lie. That's what I want to do. I want to try to code like a little app for. I want to be like an online personal trainer, and I'm trying to get started into stuff like that. So that stuff like I love, and exactly what you said. You got to think like, okay, what's coming up? What's it going to be? And there's a lot of these jobs that you got to get a 4-year degree to go to college for that the AI can do better. And that company knows that, and they can pay the AI a hell of a lot less than they pay you. So they're just going to get rid of you because, like you said earlier, like at the bottom line, they're running a business and they're the ones putting the money at risk. So they're sitting there going, we can cut costs. That's what we're going to do.
Exactly.
And I can't. It's definitely sometimes it's messed up for sure. But I mean, if I'm looking about my online personal business, I'm trying to use AI where I can run it myself and do all the stuff myself. So, I mean, I'm kind of doing the same thing, but I'm not offering and putting those like positions out there, I guess. But it's something it's a business, and you got to make more money than you end up spending at the end of the day, and that's something that they're looking at. They're looking at it from that perspective, and I can't really blame that perspective. I just think you have to do your research and look ahead and go, okay, I see what you're doing. I'm going to start to do some of the things that you're doing instead of being in this position trying to ask you for the money that I want and try to tell you why I'm worth what I think I am. If you go out there and you can make it, and then you're worth a lot more sometimes.
Exactly.
And with that story, what you said earlier, like a dropout, and then because he's a dropout, because he did a few little forms, now he can go hire the person who paid $100,000 to go get a college degree and do all these things. And I just don't think it's something that is explained to people.
Yeah, and it makes me emotional, man, to be honest. Like it hurts me because again, I see people all the time, bro. Like when I'm at school and I'm just walking, and that's why they say the more you know, the more like everything just affects you. I just be walking and you see college kids just walking and just laughing and I'm like, man, these guys don't even know. I see people going to class and they're rushing to class and I'm late for class and I'm like, man, you're worried about being late for class and you don't even understand that you might not have a job after this, for real. It hurts me. It makes me feel away because I know that I got a scholarship, so I didn't have to pay for it. But there are people out here who are spending hundreds of thousands, are getting in debt hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a degree that they think are going to help them in the future financially. What happens when there's no job to help you in the future financially? What are you going to do? That's why all these people end up back working at restaurants or and I'm not bashing none of that because I did that and I do that when I can.
Yeah.
But like you end up doing things that all the people that you said, hey, I'm gonna go to college, and they're like, man, I'm just gonna go work.
Yeah.
And you end up the same place with
Yeah.
them. But guess what? Because they were doing it for the whole 5 years that you were doing that, their supervisor, their manager, and they're telling you what to do. Because at the end of the day, it's experience. You know, you can have you're overqualified and no experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And that's one thing. It's like, especially college, it's like, it's 4 years of, and I really don't want to just bash college 100%.
No, yeah, I know.
I think there's engineers, that people that do really well stuff. There's lawyers and still doctors that you can be successful. Mm-hmm. But there are some degrees on the campus that you're like, what are you studying? How is this going to make money? Like, what's going on? I don't understand this at all. And I mean, I'm a kinesiology major, and like they'll tell you, like, I remember one day it was in one of the classes, it was like strictly about strength and conditioning. He said, we're going to go over like all the jobs you can get with these different degrees and everything. And all the stuff that made any sort of money sounded like absolute awful to me, like PT assistant, all these different things that you could do. It's just not what I want to do anyway. And then it was talking about actually like kinesiology, like strength coaches and stuff. It's like, yeah, if you have a master's degree, you can expect to get like $40K. And it was just like, that's tuition. That's the cost of coming here. What are you talking about? That's what I'm going to get. So, and I was in the back of class like, well, I was already thinking I wanted to do the online stuff and everything, but like, why the hell would I go there? And I'm talking to my strength coach, and he's talking about, well, he only gets one vacation a year because he's got to be here at all these different things. You're going to pay me that? I'd rather just be on myself. And then, like you said, go work and do the stuff that kind of sucks. But if you're getting only that, like if you have a family and different things, like you're still struggling at that point just to get by and stuff. So I don't know, that stuff, it blows my mind. I just wish that the knowledge would be given to the high school kids or just younger people in general, because like there's trades you can get that you can do a 6 to 8 week course and be making a good money. And that's stuff that the AI can't do that. The AI can't fix your plumbing.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's something that needs to be done, and it's always going to need to be done. And I think there's things on computers. There's a bunch of stuff that is going to be like rapidly gone. But yet, like you said, you're going into $100,000 of debt. Thankfully, like I said, you got a scholarship, and I got a full tuition scholarship academically here. So thankfully, I haven't had to pay much, but I still have to pay like different fees and stuff here and there. And it's always just like, how is it always this much money? Like, what's going on?
There's a lot of ways around it. Honestly, like as you mentioned something about finding different ways to pay for college. I don't know if this is every college, but I spent 3 months working at Liberty in like if you want to call it a corporate job, and part of a perk in the job was that you could go to school for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, and I didn't need any degree to get the job in the first place. I'm like, if you want to get a degree that bad, you could have legit be a custodian, honestly, because if you were an employee at Liberty, you can take classes for free.
Yeah.
You could have done a custodial job and pay for your tuition, but again, a lot of people aren't willing to make that kind of sacrifice. They don't want to. They don't want anybody to see them working. They want to just focus on. But so you would rather have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and just to not feel embarrassed for a moment, or would you rather just take it on the chin and move forward and leave college with zero debt?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think everybody needs just a whole refresher on how to approach life. You know, you got the professors who lived in the 2000s and the 1990s trying to tell you how to live life, and now we're in the 2024.
Yeah.
Like, your way of living back then is not applicable right now. The advice that you're given, as much as I appreciate it, it's not current.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell me to just save my money. You can't save your way to success in this economy. Inflation is real. So the more you save, the more you're losing. Every dollar you're saving, you're losing money. So it's like, what do? You know what I'm saying? And you bring up a very good point. We have to communicate to people so that they can come in with their awareness, or they can go into different sectors that they can actually make money. My brother is in plumbing right now, and I know for a fact, like, he's telling me what he's expecting to make in the next 3-4 years, and I'm like, man. And all it's taking you is just time to learn that thing. You don't
Yeah.
have to go study and go to the library and buy books. You don't have to do that. You just go on the job and learn it. And in the
Yeah.
next 3 years, you're gonna be making that. A lot of people who go to school for 10 years are making that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, 100%. And I think those jobs are something that people need to be like told about. Because I mean, where I was from in Dothan, people did that, but it in school, like it was not really pushed that much. And I can say even at one of my senior year, our actual final school, we had like it's called DTC. It was like a technical kind of like trade type stuff in the back. But even like from that, you'd be told to take the courses if you wanted, but never in class would it actually go through these examples of, well, this is how much you can make here from 12 weeks instead of a 4 year and $100,000 in debt and all that. Like that example is never given to people, and I think probably for good reason. They want people to go to college. It probably makes them look better when the high school has a bunch of kids that end up going to college and stuff. And I'm not against college or anything, but I just know there's ways online without anything that you can make money, and those just need to be, I guess, more talked about to people. Because
100%.
what you were saying is completely true. Where if you just don't look up the information and try to actually get it yourself, it's rare that it's going to be given to you. And then if you're behind and you're looking for that job and a thing, and you maybe even get the job, but then two years later they're canceling it out because there's an AI that can do it, and they only need, instead of even 10 people in the program, they only need one to run it, and then you know what I mean, stuff like that,
Exactly.
and it just goes downhill. But yeah, I could talk about this for years.
Yeah.
It gets me fired up because I don't know, especially I'm like we're both young dudes. I'm 21, so it's like this is just the future of like my life basically. And I think with the stuff I see in AI, it's like this stuff's coming soon. It's not going to be 20 years.
No.
It's coming soon. Like some of the stuff I've been able to see it do, even with stuff like I've done myself, it's just been like, yeah, this is going to take over stuff. As soon as people that can get like good coders and good people on this, they're gonna be able to do anything they want with it. They're already making robots that can do different stuff. So I don't know. I think I hope they don't take over cars. That's gonna piss me off. Or like that's just giving more control to people. But I mean, I think there's a lot of ways that you can save money in places by using AI. But the problem is there's places now that are using people for that. So then you end up firing a bunch of people. But it's kind of like if you're prepared for it, it's going to do you well. If you're not prepared for it, it may not. And I think that's the same thing. Like you could say COVID's the same way. People who were rich and had enough money, they made money in COVID because they were able to figure out. They knew what was coming.
Yeah,
they knew where to put their money. They knew what to do. But if you didn't have the money and you weren't able to do that, then that just wasn't an opportunity for you. It wasn't able to do that because you didn't know that was going to happen and have the resources to do anything when it actually did happen. So yeah, no, I think just people, in my opinion, I think the like unemployment welfare system, the way that it's used, especially with how much it actually will give you, like there's people that will not work a 40-hour work week because then you wouldn't be able to get the check that you get at the end of the month. So then you can only work 19 hours a week to do this. And it's just, I just don't think the government should be incentivizing that. I think they should try to incentivize the work more. Just because I think in the long run, when people are like, why do we have mental health issues and all these different things? And it's like, what is the purpose of your life if you're just sitting there doing shit all day and you just get a check at the end of the month? Like, what are you really doing? Like, what's the purpose of all the stuff that you got going on? And for me, like that's, when I think about the fitness business and all that stuff, I get excited about starting the business, trying to make money from it, obviously being successful, but also like, okay, I want people to get in shape. Like what we were talking about earlier, the food industry, stuff like that. Like exercise is a big way to help and go against stuff like that because sometimes you just can't get good food because of where you're at. You don't have the resources or the money to be able to get that good high quality food. Exercise is something that you can do to counteract that and help with that. So I think it's stuff like that where it's just like I feel actual passion about it instead of just kind of going along with what happens. Hopefully they're going to give me my money, and then if someone else says they're not going to give me my money, I'm damn sure going to vote for the people that said that they're going to give me my money.
Yeah.
Even if they do 6 other things that are fucking me, if they're gonna give me my money at the end of the month, then I gotta go with them because the other people ain't. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that people get caught up into, and it's completely fair. And yeah, so
And I agree. It's kind of refreshing to hear somebody kind of on the same page, just in the thought process of it. Because I feel like
uh,
one thing I've always heard people say is the more you have the more people with purpose is the less profit they're gonna make. Like I'm talking, I'm not just singling out the government, but I'm talking businesses in general that aren't really out there to help people. They don't want you to have a purpose. And I think part of the reason why the government incentivizes people to not work is because when you're not working, and I know as athletes we can relate, when you're not training and you're not working, you have free time, but you're wasting all that free time. You're not
yeah,
in the mind space to actually take the time out to try to make yourself better or do some research. You're just wasting time playing
yeah,
video games, just doing a lot of stuff that isn't helping you progress.
yeah,
If you were actually working hard, I'm telling you, when you work hard, all you can think about is not wanting to work hard. And when you're actually thinking about not wanting to work hard, there's a high chance or a high probability you're going to do the research to see what is it that I can do? What can I offer the world so I don't have to work this hard?
yeah,
But if they're giving you things here and there to kind of just keep you getting by, then you kind of get into this complacency mindset where, well, I mean, I'm getting $1,500 a month from the government and I'm
mm,
making 2,000, so I'm pretty good. I'm gonna keep that because if I start working for real, then I'm gonna have to work that entire money, and I don't want to do that. It's
yeah.
just it's a different mindset. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%. And it's like, I feel like it's almost like a give. If you give them if you give a certain amount that's enough, it's just like, okay, this is sustainable and I can do it. And I understand how that can be a good thing because, like, obviously
Yeah.
there's tough situations and all types of and stuff like that. I just feel like there's a better way to do it, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because
No, I agree.
I would love to see something where it's like, if it's like a welfare type system or unemployment that can set up with people that need jobs or people that like workers, like businesses that need workers, and then maybe pay a certain amount of the hourly wage on top, like six
Yeah.
dollars extra an hour is coming from this or something like that, just to incentivize the work. Because
Yeah.
I think it's exactly what you said. Like, if you're going to get in the job and do that hard work, you're going to immediately go, all right, I need to figure out what I can do to not be able to have to do
Yeah.
this all the time, for sure.
Mm.
And but if they give you just the right amount, then they're just going to keep you right there in that little cozy amount. But then if you do too much, you're not going to be able to do it anymore, and now you're going
Yeah.
to have all that responsibility and different stuff. And I don't know, that can be kind of, people don't want that, and I
Yeah.
understand it, but I just feel that, especially the way that it's going, it's always something that you only get one life. You got to go out there and try to do something, and it's better than just taking a check and sitting there and playing video games and wasting your time away because you don't really have a direction of like, what do I want to
Yeah.
do, what do I need to do. When you have that direction, you have that, like, it's really exciting. Like, I've been thinking about it because I mean, I got school and throwing and everything right now, and I got another year of eligibility, but I'm basically done with my school at the end of this semester. So all I have is like an internship class I have to take. It's not even on campus. It's just doing an internship. So basically, I'm done with class. So I'm going to start to be able to do a lot more of the fitness stuff, actually trying to code stuff for my website and different things. And that's just even thinking about it. And that's in like 2 months. But it gets me excited just even thinking about it. And
Yeah.
that's something that you're just not going to have when, like, what are you getting excited about? Like the game, the NFL game that they got going on that some dude's making billions of dollars off of. That guy's getting, you know, you're sitting there making 1,500, and that's what you're excited about, and this dude's making
You're
billions
excited
of
about
yacht.
you're excited about being the product.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You're the reason why they're rich.
yeah. No, that's the thing. I hear a bunch of people talking about. I'm like, I would never pay. Like, I've seen online trainers that charge a certain amount, $500, $1,000, and I'm just like, who pays this money? Like, where are people getting this money to do this stuff? And yeah, I mean, I think the people at the top want consumers. They want people that want to buy things, want to sit there and watch this thing on the TV, watch it on Netflix, and all this stuff that just ends up wasting your time, not doing
Yeah.
nothing. And people are making millions and millions of dollars off of it. And I guess it is entertaining, and that's kind of the world we're in. But I think people can be awaken to it, like you were saying, not to get none too spiritual, but it's just being awake and being critically thinking and thinking for yourself. And I think that's something that's tough to do nowadays because
Yeah.
people are kind of like, all over the place with this is the right thing, and if you have a different opinion, just like you said, I mean, if you remember, do you remember what that company wanted you to like take down? What were you talking about?
So I think I know, and I took it down since, but it wasn't because of like anything like that. I just took it down because I just wanted to go a different route with what I'm promoting.
Yeah,
But I think it was the Andrew Tate stuff that I put up. I think it was that
that'll do it.
because I actually had that on my page.
Yeah,
That's why if anybody knows, I wasn't really a posting stories kind of guy. I don't really post stories. But since I stopped posting on my page, I said, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna post it in my story
yeah,
instead. And I think this was just kind of a way for me to my wife and I were having a conversation and she was like, why not just posting a story? Because you don't want to lose all your content that you like about yourself and flood
yeah,
it with you don't want to become a conspiracy page.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm against the idea of posting what I believe in, but at least put it somewhere where people can see it and then we can move on to something else and it's not
yeah,
permanently there to to basically flood your whole timeline. So I did
yeah.
that. But I think it was the Andrew Tate thing, and she had actually asked me, um, what was it that why was I posting stuff like that? And I was telling her like, hey, I might not agree with the guy 100%, but I can only talk from my experience. And from my experience, when I, listen to his podcasts and the stuff that he had to say, for me, it helped me a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I think it made me a better person. And I'm just 100% honest like that. Like if somebody has done good for me, I can only speak on the good that they've done for me. If
Yeah.
they've done bad for you, that's your story to tell. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
My story is I watched this guy and he made me want to get up 4 o'clock in the morning and go train and go work and go and do what I need to do and spend time with my family. Like he made me
Yeah.
want to do that. So why would I hide the fact that he was the catalyst that made me want to do that? You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
how I feel about anything I post is I watch it and it inspires me and I want to inspire everybody. Like I want everybody, if it's even one person, to get the feeling that I got from what I just watched or just
Yeah.
witnessed. You know what I'm saying? That's why I post what I post and say what I say and believe what I believe.
No, 100%. And I agree. I think it's obviously a bad sign whenever you got someone that's just they're upset with you for saying what you want to believe because they disagree with what that is. And instead of being like, well, why do you believe that? And it's a fair thing to say. And I mean, I've listened to a lot of his stuff, and it's the same exact thing. It's like there's so many good messages in here that it's kind of suspicious that there's all this negative stuff that's coming out and all these different things. But that's one of the things that I just want to avoid that because it just bothers me when people try to push their opinion on you.
Yeah.
But from a company's perspective, I understand the I guess the thought process behind it because
Yeah.
they're getting
Yeah.
pressure from people. They're getting pressure from people, but it's kind of the same thing as like you said. It's like at what point do you stand up and say, well, this isn't what I'm going to do. Like I believe in this, so that's what I'm going to do. And I think
Exactly.
people need to do that more. And the more that people do that, the more it will be okay to do that. It won't be as punished as harshly because uh, yeah, you usually can get punished quite harshly for speaking your mind, especially if people know who you are. Someone like Tate, obviously, that's there's stuff that's come out with him, obviously. So, well, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. I would not say I believe them to the most extent, but it's I guess ongoing at this point. But
Yeah.
it just blows my mind the way that a lot of people just do not think for themselves. You just see a video on TikTok and whatever this says is the right thing. And if I see another video, then if that's the right thing. And it's just there's no like actual credible source of information. And all you got to do is just go look up the information. You'll get both sides, and you can make a opinion on yourself. Because a lot of the issues aren't this is the right answer. It's well, this is a bunch of information on this side. This is a bunch of information here, and then these are some of the conclusions that people have come to that they think is what should be done.
Yeah.
Because it's black and white issues are very rare, very rare. It's usually a gray area. There's always some sort of compromise or something that can be done. And if you just hear he's bad, this is bad, then he's bad. He's the worst person ever. But then you don't actually hear, well, what is he saying? What's the point behind it? And that goes both ways, because it goes, especially like this is an election year in the U.S. obviously, so
Yeah.
it happens on both sides. They're going to
Yeah.
take this out of context and say this is what he said. They're going to take his out of context and say this is what he says. And so it kind of it puts the onus back on you to go. Let me go watch the whole thing. Let me see actually what he said. Like he made this comment. Oh, okay, he made that comment. Okay, now I see what's going on. And then you make that opinion for yourself. And I guess
Exactly.
that's the beauty of the country. But corporations don't like doing that. Businesses want to control what you say. At least some of them. That's for sure. But well, one last thing I want to talk to you about, man. Obviously, your last or the first episode you posted of the Kyle Mitchell Show, your podcast you got going on, you posted with Warren on there. So where could people find that show? And like obviously, like what are you trying to do with that? And like what are your goals for that?
I'm glad you asked. So you can find my Instagram page is at the Kyle Mitchell Show. That's KYLE Mitchell Show, and it's the same name on YouTube. To be honest with you, I created that podcast or show because I was always having those kind of conversations with my friends and just other athletes. And it was a specific day I was having a conversation with a certain athlete, and he was just kind of pouring out, what he was going through and the struggles he was facing, not just financially, but, mentally. And I said to myself, man, a lot of people need to hear this. People need to hear this, not just, throwers or athletes, but just people in general, because you can be inspired from anything.
Yeah.
People need to hear this because this is the truth. This is the reality. And I said to myself, maybe I need to start a podcast. But, there's this whole, man, everybody's starting a podcast. You shouldn't start a podcast. Why are you going to start a podcast? So I had to change the narrative in my mind because, I'm thinking, we can start a podcast. And then immediately I went from, I can start a podcast to, it can be like this person's podcast or that person's podcast. And from a biblical standpoint, they say comparison is a thief of joy. When you start comparing yourself to other people, it takes away from the whole point of you wanting to do it in the first place. So I switched the narrative from, I don't care how many people watch it, if it's 5 or 6, I'm going to take, I watched a video with Mr. B saying his first videos used to get like 100 views or like 50 views. And that guy, he has over 200 million subscribers now. So it's like, it shows you that once you can stand the test of time, success will just naturally come. But if your main focus is your passion, as you mentioned, you're passionate about fitness and helping people look good or feel good. If I'm passionate about telling people or giving people a platform to tell a story so we can have a conversation, naturally people are going to gravitate to it. Naturally, people are going to want to be a part of it. Naturally, it's going to be successful. And if it doesn't become successful, if it doesn't take off, at least there's somewhere that people can go and hear people's story. Even if it's one person, that's all that matters to me. And so far, there have been so many people that I don't even know that have reached out to me and be like, hey, I really appreciate you, you and Warren talking and blah, blah, because it puts a lot of things into perspective and, makes us understand. Because to me, it's good when you can have somebody who is at that level or get into that level of, being somebody great in the sport. To share their story, to share their experience, so you can understand that, all right, we might not walk the same path, but in a sense, to get to where he's at, there's a chance I might have to go through what he went through.
Exactly.
So that's all I want to do with the podcast. Honestly, is just bring people on and tell the story. And I got to look at it from my perspective too. Is like, if you write down a list of things that you're good at, if I write down a list of things that I'm good at, one of them is, athletics. And through athletics, I met a lot of people who are world champions, Olympians, So
Yeah.
I gotta use what I have. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If I can go in my contacts and see more than 5 people that are Olympians, then maybe this isn't so far fetched. You know what I'm saying? Now,
Exactly. Yeah.
if I didn't have any ties to sports and I just got up and said, hey, I'm gonna start a podcast and interview athletes, that would be harder to do. But to
Yeah.
me, just being realistic, don't really like the word, but just being honest, just being realistic, it's not that hard to do for me. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta
Mm-hmm.
just the ball is in my court now to really put in the work because it is hard. Like I reached out to about 5 people, and surprisingly, all 5 people was like, "Yeah, sure." So
Yeah.
now it's like you have no reason not to move forward because they're waiting on you. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? The 5 of them are
100%.
like, "Sure, yeah, let's go," and I'm the one who was like, "What am I going to talk about? What am I going to do? I just got to
Yeah.
get going." You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, 100%. And I feel you. I mean, obviously, I started this podcast not too long ago. It's the same thing. I just felt like kind of the same thing you said there. Like I was like, I know all the people I know in the sport and I've talked to and been around. I just think it's something I could get going. Want to talk to people. Want to like let people have that experience of like, because in high school I would always look up. Or at least in middle school and like start of high school, I would always watch all types of videos on YouTube, on Instagram, all types of stuff about throwers, just trying to learn something because I was trying to learn technique, learn all types of stuff. So it was something that I did, and like you said, it's like as soon as I started kind of bringing it up to people, I'd have a few people on the team that were like, "Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. You should have me on." So then at that point, it's just like, well, all right, now I got to get going and get started with
Yeah,
it,
this is real.
and
Yeah.
it's fun. And I still got people that have told me that like 6 months ago that I got to get on here. And it's just obviously we're busy and have a bunch of stuff going on, but it's gonna happen. And I thank you for coming on, man. It's been a good time. It's a great
Appreciate it.
conversation. We've gotten into some little bit of conspiracy, nothing too crazy, but
Yeah.
yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And yeah, roll tide. I don't know what Liberty
Thank
says, but
thank you for having me on the show, and for everybody watching, just a word of advice, just keep pressing. Just keep pursuing the things that you're passionate about. Find your purpose, believe in yourself, love the ones that love you, and even the ones that don't love you, show them love same way. All right.
100%. Appreciate it, man.